Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make Ladyfingers, and this is what they look like. These cookies have a sweet flavor and a soft and spongy texture. Now you can eat them on their own, or they are often used in layered desserts like a tiramisu. So the first thing you need to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 200 degrees Celsius. And I like to bake 2 sheets of cookies at a time. So if you want to do that, put your oven racks in the top third and the bottom third of your oven, or you also can just bake 1 sheet at a time. So what you will need is 2 baking sheets lined with parchment paper. Now, Ladyfingers with that long, thin, like finger shape, how we get that is we're going to pipe the batter into, and I like to make them 3 inches long, that's 7.5 centimeters. And in order, like you want them all the same length. And how I do that is I actually make a template on my parchment paper. So what you need to do is, I find my length of parchment paper, I can make 4 3-inch, 7.5 centimeter rows, and then you want to space the rows like about 1 inch, 2.5 centimeters apart, as you can see I've done here. If this looks confusing, don't worry, once I start piping, you'll see how you do this. So of course, what you want to do is, with your pencil or pen, you don't want to have that on the top. So I just turn that over, and then I just like to, just so the paper sticks. I mean, you could use a little of the batter to get the paper to stick, but I'm just lightly spraying. So there we have that. Now, like I said, we're going to pipe the Ladyfingers. So you will need a large piping bag, and you will need a 1/2 inch, that's about 1 1/4 centimeter round tip, and then just put it into your bag. And then while the batter is quite thick, when you're filling the bag, it has a tendency to come out the bottom, which makes kind of a mess. So what I do is, once you put your tip in, just turn it like that, and then just stuff it in, a little in, and then that way, as you're filling the bag, it doesn't come out the other end, which I've had happen. And then what I do is just put the bag in the glass and just turn down the top, and that makes it easy to fill. Again, so we don't make a mess. So now this is essentially a sponge cake batter, which is mainly eggs, sugar, and flour. That's it, no butter. So what I like to do about, a half hour before we start, take 5 large eggs and separate them into the yolks and the whites, and then cover them with plastic wrap and bring them to room temperature. I like to separate the eggs while they're cold. It's much easier. If you try to do when it's warm, the yolk tends to break, and then you got a mess. So just do that while they're cold. So now what we're going to do, if you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment, or you can just use a hand mixer for this. So take your yolks, just put it in there, and then add 1/3 of a cup, that's 65 grams of granulated white sugar. And then what we're going to do is just beat this on high speed until it gets really thick and light, like a very pale yellow color. And this could take, depending on the strength of your mixer, between 5 and 10 minutes. Okay, so we're done. So I'll show you. So as you can see, beautiful, nice and thick. And whether you can see this, it kind of, when you lift the beater, the batter will fall in like ribbons. So it's really thick. So that's what you're looking for. So now for flavoring, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. And I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, so we're done this part. Okay, so now, just so you can see what I'm doing, I'm going to transfer the batter over to a large bowl. You don't have to do this at home. You can just do it in your mixing bowl. So now what we're going to do is beat our egg whites. So if you don't have another bowl for your mixer, you will have to wash this and then use it, but I just happen to have another one. So what I'm going to do is, you want the whisk this time. So take your egg whites, put them in there, and then I'm going to add a little bit of cream of tartar, 1/4 teaspoon, and that just helps your egg whites beat to full volume and not dry out. Now you could use the same amount of lemon juice or even just a pinch of salt instead. And so what I'm going to do is beat this on medium speed just until almost to soft peaks. Okay, so that looks good. So you want your batter about like that, just really very soft peaks. So now what we're going to do is gradually add, while your mixer's on medium-high speed, a third of a cup, 65 grams of granulated white sugar. And then we're going to continue to beat our meringue until it becomes really nice and stiff and the peaks are really nice and glossy. Give this, I'm just going to make sure all of our sugar got down into the meringue. Now that's almost there, but they're not really shiny, so I'm just going to beat them they're still, like you can see, a little soft. So I'm just going to beat them just a little longer. Okay, oh, now that's a nice meringue. So you can see, oh, nice peaks, nice and smooth and glossy. Okay, now you could always just run a little between your fingers and it should feel nice and smooth. If it still feels a little gritty, then you want to beat it a little more because the sugar has not completely dissolved into your meringue. So I'm just going to leave that there for just a second. So what we need to do, we have our egg yolks here, this mixture. So what I'm going to do is take a strainer and take 1 cup, that's 120 grams of cake flour, and I'm going to sift that right over the top. Okay, that's good. And then a little salt, 1/4 teaspoon. I'm using kosher salt. I find it's a little milder flavor than your regular table salt, but you can use either one. So now, just leave that like that. And then take a little, about 1/3 of your meringue, and just put it in there. And then we're going to fold it in. So, big strokes. Okay, that looks good. And then fold a little more. Fine, if you do it gradually, you end up folding less than if you put it all your meringue in at once, because we don't want to deflate our batter. I mean, it will a little, but we want to keep that meringue as nice and fluffy as we can. So just big, and make sure you turn over from the bottom, because of course that flour tends to drop down. And let's put the rest in. Such a beautiful batter. Okay. And we'll finish this off. Not that difficult to make. You can see. Okay, that looks nice and thick. Okay, I'm happy with that. So now, we are going to pipe our ladyfingers. These are also known as sponge cookies or sponge fingers. So, I like to use a spoon. You could use your spatula. And then just, look at that, nice and thick. Use a large spoon. It makes it a little easier than trying to use your spatula for this, but either one will work. And if you didn't have a pastry bag, you could use like a large freezer bag for this. And then if you don't have a round tip, you could just cut off the end. So I'm going to put not all of my batter. So now, let's put a little more in there. So what we're going to do is flip that up and then do it over your bowl. Kind of press it down. You want to try to get the air, otherwise you'll get some air pockets in your ladyfingers. Sometimes that can't be helped, but we can try to get the air out. Okay, so that looks good. So I want to twist, and then of course, like I said, I let that go, and okay, so we're good. So now now I put about 5 across, spacing them about 1 inch apart, 2.5 centimeters, and even pressure, 45-degree angle, just pipe your ladyfingers. And then when you come to the end, stop the pressure and then just kind of flip it back. Okay, my last one. Okay, so there, we're done. So I find I get about 40 3-inch long, 7.5 centimeter ladyfingers. And so as you can see, if you were a little confused on my template, this is how it looks, 20 per sheet. So now what we want to do is take somewhere around 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of powdered sugar, somewhere around 40 grams, and then put it in a strainer, and then just sprinkle it over the top. If you notice, ladyfingers always have that little sugar, and it helps to form a bit of a crust. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to bake both sheets at a time. You can do one at a time. About, I would say, 6 to 8 minutes. You just want them like firm, but when you touch them, they're still quite soft and spongy. So there we go. I think we're good. Okay, so our ladyfingers are done. You feel them? They're still a little spongy, hence the name, sponge finger or sponge cookie. So now what you want to do immediately is, and don't burn yourself, just grab the paper and slide it right off like so. And then what you want to do is don't let them cool very long. Sometimes what I like to do just quickly is I like a little extra sugar. You can just sift it over the top, like so. And then what you want to do is immediately take them off, or just like wait maybe a minute, and then take them off of the parchment with a little, I got a little spatula here. I can use a knife even, because otherwise they stick to the paper. Okay, our last one. So there we have it. homemade ladyfingers. Now, when you look at these, they're a little more, I mean, they're a little crisp on top, but they're not like the ones you buy at the store that are really crisp and quite thick. Homemade ladyfingers are a little different taste and texture. Actually, I prefer them this way. And so, when you make homemade ladyfingers, they are best the day they're made, by far. If you, say you just want to serve them on their own, or like with ice creams, very good. If you are using them for, like, say, a tiramisu, and you don't want to do it the same day, then freeze these. Put them between pieces of either wax paper or parchment paper and freeze them, because they stale so quickly, and we really want to keep the taste and texture of these. I'm going to try one. Oh, so good. A little sweetness, you taste the vanilla, nice and soft and spongy. I just like them like this. So, enjoy, and until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.